this is Esther with Discover Your Origins. In this video, I'm going to talk about a scenario that you often come across in FamilySearch Family Tree and how to deal with that. And that is mixed up profiles or mixed up relationships. And it's very common when you're doing research in England, but I ran across this scenario in a family in Georgia. So I'm going to showcase how I fixed this particular problem. The FamilySearch Family Tree is a wiki style tree with the idea that there is one profile for each person that lived on the tree. And so when I see stuff like this, I immediately think, oh, maybe these are duplicates and they need to be put together. But let's evaluate first and look at this carefully. There's a few ways of dealing with this. First, we're going to look at the vital information, so birth and death and parents and family. And then we're going to look at sources. Then we're going to look at locations very carefully. And then we'll make a decision and clean this up. I've been doing descendancy research on the Snellgrove family in Georgia for a DNA project. And I ran across Inez Snellgrove. The Inez on the left is the one that I ran across first. So let's look at her first. And I don't know very much about her. I've got a birth year and birthplace as Georgia. I have some record hints that will help maybe fill in some information. I've got the 1950 census, which is got her married name, Inez Simons, and then I've got a marriage license here as a record hint that says she was married to a W H Simons. And if we look, it says Ridgeland, Jasper, South Carolina as a possible location. So we'll make note of that. We've got a couple of events. These here are connected to source records. So 1920 shows her in Emmanuel, Georgia, and 1930 in Chatham, or Savannah, Chatham, Georgia. Now she is connected to Willie Simons here. And I did add this after doing a bit of research, thinking that that was the correct connection. And Inez is the daughter, in this particular case, of William James Snellgrove and Emma Wirtz. And she has some siblings. She has a sister, Ruth, a brother, Ernest, another sister named Mabel. So let's look at the sources here. And so we have the 1920 census, which I already have open. And it says she's a daughter. She's 4 years old, living in Emmanuel, Georgia. And her mother is Emma. Now, one thing to note here is that her mother is 56 years old. And in 1920, Inez is only 4 years old, so we're in 1916. So that would mean Emma is 52 when Inez is born. Not outside the realm of possibility. It is possible, but it's questionable. For the moment, we're going to accept it as fact because that's what the census says, that she is the mother. Whether she is the biological mother or not, it's not entirely clear, but that can be determined later. For the moment, we're going to just try to determine if these two Inezes are the same. Okay, so if we look at the 1930 census, we have Inez is living with her sister and brother-in-law. Her mother's also in the household, and they're in Savannah, Georgia. Okay. And another thing to note is here, Emma says she is widowed, and that determined as she's not really widowed in 1930. She's probably separated because her husband is living in another in a boarding house in 1930. I'm not going to show that here by looking too closely at the father here for William James. But if we were to look at each of these locations, it shows that William James was born in Edgefield, South Carolina, and died in Telfair, Georgia. Let's look at the birth locations of each of Inez's siblings. This one says Georgia. This one says Emmanuel, Georgia. We have Emmanuel, Georgia, but died in Chatham for Mabel. And Inez, we're still working on. Okay, so this is the first Inez. And this is the one that I started with. And then I connected this Inez to Willie Simons based on the records that I have. So when I when you go and look at Willie Simons, he's the next person we're going to look at. He's got 2 Inez Snellgroves married to him. And we're going to look at this second Inez here in just a second. But we want to pay attention to the locations. Willie is born in Saluda, South Carolina, and he dies in Chatham, Georgia. So most likely Savannah. And let's look at his sources. So we got a 1930 census record. He's born in Savannah, or he's living in Savannah, Chatham, Georgia in 1930. Okay, and then we have a World War II draft card. And this confirms his birth date, his birth location, and his relative, who is Inez Simons. So he's already married by the time the draft registration happens. And the relative's address is Savannah, Chatham, Georgia. So Savannah is looking like it's a very important location for us. All right, so we don't have very many source records here for Willie. We need to do a bit more research. We have a couple of record hints here. We have a death index record hint. He dies in Chatham. We got his death date. This Social Security record is for his son. This 1950 census record says that he's living in Savannah with his wife and a son. Okay, so Savannah, Georgia is very important here. Let's go back to Inez and look at this marriage license here to Willie Simons. So we need to look at how far Ridgeland is from Savannah, Georgia. We'll do that here in just a second. So we've got some important locations, Savannah, Georgia, and Jasper, South Carolina. So let's look at this other Inez. We've got a bit more information on her. She was born in Georgia, the birth date, 1915, so very close to the other one, and dies in Chatham, Georgia. But in 1920, she's in Sunshine, Telfair, Georgia, and 1930, she's in Sunshine, Telfair, Georgia. You can see that she's been connected to Willie Simons as well, but she has different parents. So Otis Oscar Snellgrove and Minnie L. Williamson. So let's look at locations. So Oscar here is from Edgefield, South Carolina. Minnie, we just have Georgia. Then we have James Fred, a sibling, is from Telfair. Maybelle was born in Telfair. Eugene is born in Telfair. So pretty good chance that Inez, we don't have it here, is also born in Telfair. So Telfair is very important for this particular family. We also have the same record hints. So we'll need to deal with these because I think these 2 Inezes are probably different women. They're in 2 different locations in 1920 and 1930, connected to different parents. Let's go to a map and let's map some of these places. So first, we're going to look at the distance between Savannah and Telfair. Okay, so these 2 are about 140 miles, depending on the route that's taken, apart. 1915, when they were born, it would have been a difficult journey to travel that distance. It's not clear when Inez and Willie married. Definitely before the World War II draft registration, possibly late 1930s, early 1940s, they were married. So let's look and see where Jasper County, or Ridgeland, South Carolina is. Because this is where the marriage license happened. Okay, so if we take off Telfair County here, we can see how far apart these are. It's about 32 miles, which seems like a reasonable distance to travel, and possibly it was cheaper to get married in Ridgeland, South Carolina than in Savannah. Hard to say, but it seems more likely that the Inez Snellgrove that was in Savannah, Georgia in the 1930s would have traveled to Ridgeland to get a marriage license versus the other. So if we add Telfair back in, Telfair County, Georgia, that, let's take out Savannah here to see how far that would have taken. Okay, so that would have been about 165 to 170 miles. It's a much longer journey to get married. It doesn't seem reasonable to me that they would have traveled that far to get a marriage license. They would have gone somewhere much closer, I would think. Just looking at the locations here helps me know that this Inez Snellgrove probably did not marry this Willie Simons. This is probably an incorrect connection. So I'm going to go ahead and remove Willie Simons from this Inez, the one that lived in Telfair, Georgia. Now, this could seem a little intimidating to make changes on the Family Search Family Tree. However, I would encourage you that if you've done your homework, you've looked at locations and relationships and sources, and you feel confident in your decision here that she did not marry Willie, then go ahead and fix it. The only way the Family Search Family Tree is going to get better is if people fix things like this. So I'm going to go ahead and fix this. And the best thing to do is when you make a change that you also explain. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this Willie. And I'm going to say, yes, I've reviewed relationships, events, sources. And I'm going to remove the husband. It's not outside the realm of possibility that she could have traveled from Telfair to Ridgeland, but where there's a Inez Snellgrove that lived closer, then it just doesn't seem reasonable. So let's see. Marriage license place of Ridgeland. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this. All right, now I don't know for sure if this William Simons, he's probably not also not connected to this Inez, so we need to remove him, and we also need to keep track of this ID number so we can add it back later. So if you click on this, it will copy, and then I'm just going to open up the notepad here and just paste that for safekeeping, because I'm going to add that to the other Inez and Willie Simons. And we're going to go ahead and remove this person. Okay, the next thing we need to do to make sure that this does not get changed in the future is we need to dismiss these record hints. Because these record hints all point to the other Inez. So this William Gerald Simons goes with the other. So we're going to say not a match. And Family Search helps to give you some reasons. So we're going to say relatives don't match. Okay, doing that automatically cleared out the others. It doesn't always happen that way. Now you can see here we have a different record hint with a different last name for this Inez Snellgrove. And it says Inez Snellgrove Prickett. And it says she's a homemaker. Her birthplace was Telfair. Her burial place is Telfair. So this particular Inez is very connected to Telfair. And we've got, she was the daughter of Oscar and Minnie, and she's got grandchildren. It doesn't mention a husband's name here, but we've at least got a hint that she married somebody with the last name of Prickett. So we'll just leave that alone for now, because this, I'm not working on this particular Inez Snellgrove, and she's been cleaned up. She's not connected anymore. And this Willie Hammond Simons, we'll go and look at his page really quick. And we've got a Beulah and an Inez. So that is looking a little bit better. We've also got these record hints that we need to attach. So let's go back to the Inez where we started. And we have these record hints, and I'll just go ahead and attach this record hint for the marriage to help establish that this couple belongs together. All right. So now when we come back, let's refresh our page. Okay, so it didn't put in the marriage information here. Let's look at that. We'll need to add that. So when you run across something like this, where you have two people with the same name and same vital information, look at things closely, look at relationships, look at the source records, and pay very close attention to locations so that we can clean up the FamilySearch Family Tree and get these profiles correct. I hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching.